Gamer Dan, man. What's
Hey,
happening?
hey, hey.
Oh dear. By the way, your name is Gamer Dan, right?
That it is, that it is.
In the on the
So,
tag too.
now it is.
Super. Hey, dude, how it
Hey,
goes?
hey. Good, good. Here in Japan, there's been a bit of an epidemic. It's a bit of a harsh term. Everyone's a little bit under the weather.
It's nuts. I mean, yeah, for goodness sake. Oh well. I guess we've been through worse. Um,
Yeah. I
yeah.
gotta say, yeah, these seasonal things, the flowers are blooming, people are beginning to hack up phlegm. But compared to a couple of years ago, I can handle this.
Yeah, thank goodness. I mean, yeah. I'm just looking forward to. I mean, with that being said, I'm in a part of Japan right now where, let me see. There've been quite a few. It's not typhoons, but quite a few.
Storms.
Yeah, just big spouts of torrential rain. Have you had that in your area?
Yeah, it's been weird. We had like a week of just near solid rain, sporadic, but just it came down and it eased off and then came down again. Couldn't get any
Mm,
washing done,
bloody
but
hell.
well, at least drying. But now it's like not a cloud in the sky. I think we just used it all up for the time being. To knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Oh
I
my
know we don't
goodness.
want to jinx it. We have got some good weather. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, summer's around the corner. Speaking of which, we got ourselves a new bit of console news coming around. The new seasons around the corner. Game in the gaming world too. What topic did you have for us in mind today, gamer? Dan?
Well, I'm kind of been. I don't want to spoil myself. I hate spoilers, but I can't stop myself from looking at these Switch 2 rumors. It's so tantalizing. And the theories, of course, people are going to be excited. It's been a long console generation. We've had the Switch for a fair while. And I don't think that's going to disappear anytime soon because they are so close to the top spot. They could knock, it's potentially, they could knock off PlayStation 2 as the console, as the number one console. And that's quite a feather in their cap, you know. Nintendo would be able to say, here, put it on a poster or put it on their wall. Switch,
Yes.
the greatest selling console of all time. I
Yes.
like that. But man, the Switch is really showing its age. There's a lot of games coming out. They're just like it looks archaic compared to some of the stuff that's coming out this last couple of years. Some of the games, I mean, I'm quite excited to play Stellar Blade
Yeah, yeah,
on PlayStation 5. And that looks fantastic.
yeah.
Controversy over clothing aside. But the Switch just doesn't really keep up anymore. We need a new generation, or at least a
Yeah, just
pro version.
yeah. The only thing is that as far as the crown switching it to Nintendo, boom, boom.
Ah,
Yeah.
don't
Sorry,
kill me,
dude.
man. Come on.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, if they brought up a new console and it's very similar to the Switch, the sad thing is, if it's not backwards compatible or anything, well, in any case, they'd have to start again. There's no way they'd be able to have that chance of catching up with PlayStation again, I suppose.
No.
And speaking of which, you said something to me. You said that PlayStation was able to bump up their sales numbers. Uh,
Yeah,
you got
this
close?
I think this was early in the year. There was an announcement by the ex-head of Sony, or the guy who was the head of Sony during the heyday of the PlayStation 2, and he mentioned that the official numbers for the PlayStation 2 sales didn't include a few smaller tag addendums, like a few little
Gimmick.
bits here and there that were sold, in the twilight of the PlayStation 2. After the PlayStation 3 had already been sold, was being sold that were still PlayStation 2 sales, but no one was counting them because PS3 was like the hot stuff,
Yeah.
the hot one. So he made mention of there being a few more additions, and people have had to kind of add those too. But I think that's just moving the goalpost.
Yeah,
That's
I know
just,
that's
it's
hilarious.
adding a remainder onto the number. No, we don't want the remainders. We want the solid numbers. Don't give us
Yeah.
the dregs or the
Yeah.
leftovers.
That is so taking the Mickey though. I mean, it's the idea of yeah,
Yeah.
the goalpost.
But I can understand where he's coming from. He may have just kind of waved it off at the time, but in hindsight, he's like, oh, no, actually, I should have considered this. I should have added it to the overall number. But also, he was the guy who presided over Sony during the highlight of its entire career, the period when gaming became almost legitimized. One of the greatest periods, like possibly the golden age of video games. You know,
Mm.
back when development was cheap enough that anyone could make something, but it was varied enough that we could really create a fully realized experience. Which is why the PlayStation, Nintendo, the Xbox at the time, their libraries were so wild and varied.
Like
People
Shenmue.
could produce amazing games,
Mm.
but relatively cheaply, and consistently, quickly, effectively. It wasn't like a 500 person, $200 million, army of people building a single game. It was, a crew of 30 to 50 people with a couple million in 6 to 12 months.
I
And the PlayStation helped that PlayStation 2's library and its quality plus variety was what helped legitimize, which helped boost PlayStation and gaming into the mainstream.
So not like Shenmue. I mean, even though it's
Well,
fine.
Shenmue is a niche game. It's a class game. It's a game of pedigree, but it's not like the multitude. For every Shenmue, there was like 20 crap games on the PlayStation 2. But occasionally you sift through and you find yourself a God of War or a Killzone or Banjo kart racing, which despite going up against Mario Kart was still a damn good kart racer.
Oh, you mean Diddy Kong?
No, I'm talking about Banjo.
Banjo.
Sorry, Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot. That's what I'm talking
Oh,
about. Crash Team
Team
Racing.
Racing. Yeah, yeah.
That was just solid kart racer. And PlayStation had just
That's
all
true.
these games. I think
Mm.
that was the era when it gave us IO and what's the one where you kill the giants?
Oh no, it's on tip of
Same
my tongue.
company. I'm thinking IO. I'm thinking Last Guardian. So that company had the one where you kill the giants.
Yeah,
Everyone
I
knows
know
it.
about that one.
Everyone remembers it.
Mm.
You know, you had your Jackson Daxters. What's the what's the
Max
other one with the
Payne.
robot?
Oh,
Ratchet and Clank. Your
yes.
team, your buddy cop things.
Yes.
It was a good time, and that was the era that brought us the 3D Grand Theft Auto, Grand Theft
Yeah.
Auto 3, The Ballad of Gay Tony.
I'm getting
Ooh,
goosebumps right now. I think we can see, but
yeah,
I'm
that
getting.
was a I for me that was the high point of the video game period. And we've
Mm.
been trying to reach that highs. The problem is that for me, the big barrier has been the companies, the publishers. They're
Mm.
chasing more profits instead of diversifying. Give me some B games. Give me some smaller games.
Yeah.
I want a Senua's Sacrifice rather than a God of than the new Assassin's Creed. New
Mm.
Assassin's Creed costs too much, too many people. It's not worth it. Give me a B rank or like an A rank game. It's made on a budget. It's made within a reasonable time frame. I get a good experience, and then when I pick it up, I finish it, and it's done. And then I play the next game.
That is it. Yeah, dude. I think and this is the era that, of course, you, I, and our general demographic watching the channel, I suppose, come from. Good grief. Uh, so speaking of which, Switch. What are they going to do for the gaming scene?
Well, you're hearing lots of
See if we can
things. There's
chat
lots
about
of
that while
rumors
I'm not.
bounding around. There's lots of little things out there. We were going to watch a video by a reviewer, by a critique called Arlo. He's very good. I trust him. I fell in love with his work when I watched his review of Breath of the Wild, and it's like 2 hours long. He split the damn thing into chunks and it looked at each different aspect of the game, and he goes into such detail, the pros and the cons, because no game's perfect, but he really breaks the game down to its component parts and looks at how they work in comparison, in unison together, and it was such a great video, so funny.
Yeah. I'm very, what I love about Nintendo. Last thing before we press play is sorry. I mean, because you and I follow a very similar arc, probably the same arc, but I don't know, maybe varies in different ways. In
Right.
terms of, cast your mind back to when Nintendo looked like they're down on their luck. The Wii U was not doing very
Oh,
well, and everybody was thinking, you know what, Nintendo is just gonna have to call it quits. PlayStation and Microsoft's gonna eat their lunch. And then the Switch came out. And again, before even that came out, I don't know. I'm such a diehard Nintendo fan that even if it was looking like that as a case, I just believe like Nintendo would bring it out the bag, and of course
mm,
they did. But that being said, it's it's I gotta hand it to the real, like you said, what we were saying earlier before off camera. The real um the competent staff behind the scenes who were looking at what does the market really need, because the Switch of course looks like well, to me it looks like the Wii U done properly.
Yes.
And it's and somehow they said I heard somebody say, oh, who is this guy? I got him. One second, it's on my screen right now. I used to love looking at his videos. Beat 'em ups, the guy from beat 'em ups. He, he he um he did a review once. I think he said I think it was him who said it. Um, the Switch gave was an answer to a question that nobody realized that they had. Like, can I play a game right now? You have to wait till I
Mm.
get home. And because it did that, it changed the playing changed the field, uh, the playing field. Yep. So I wonder because right now it's a bit like with what's happening with AI. When people see some new technology hit the scene and it's the latest thing, people think that somehow people are so mesmerized they can't imagine life beyond it. Oh, what
Mm.
next? This is it. This everything is over. This is it. And it's like, of course not. And I'm sure there'll be a lot beyond AI, even though right now some people can't imagine it. And there's something beyond the Switch. I'm wondering where is the Switch 2 gonna take us? Essentially, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because one of the biggest movers and shakers of Nintendo has been Shigeru Miyamoto, the guy who brought us Mario. He brought us Zelda. He's been one of the biggest players one of the most powerful execs at the company for a long time now. And he has long held true that a game has to be experiential as well as competent. It can't just be a good game. You've got to experience that game.
Mm,
It's got to tap into some kind of way of engaging with it. That's why a lot of the big swings that Nintendo has made with new technologies, trying to create new ways to play, going from the handheld to the Game Boy Advance to the 3DS. Ooh, that was ballsy.
interesting. Yeah.
Even back in the day, remember the Virtual Boy? Like, I
Oh
think
yeah.
it's strapped to your freaking head. Oof. The Wii U itself, the Wii itself and the Wii U, with different ways of engaging with the games. And I think that's because Nintendo was always a game for toys. Cards,
Yes.
toys, engagement. It was about how you played as well as what you played. Sony and Microsoft have kind of got themselves into a nice rut where they just want to make more powerful machines, considering the machine as more of a computer, just more capability, which allows you to play more more graphical fidelity, more deeper engagement, more in the game. But the way you play hasn't changed. The simple mechanics of how you play has been fairly consistent since their first generation. If you look at the PlayStation 5's controller compared to the PlayStation controller, sure, we've got rumble, we've got gyro, but the button scheme is exactly the same. You still hold it the same damn way because they're looking at it as a machine, as a PC.
Mm.
Nintendo, for a long time, was geared around engaging gamers in different ways. But that era is ending. We've got new CFOs. We've got Doug Bowser in charge of Nintendo America. We've got, the old guard are slowly leaving, and the new guard are not necessarily going to take pages from that same book. They are making more traditional moves. So I think that the success of the Switch has been so big, they're not going to want to rock the boat. They're going to want to bring out like the Switch 2 and a souped up version of the Switch. Now, post that, maybe. And maybe the Switch 2 will be able to realize some unfinished potential that the Switch had. A lot of people, I don't know of a game that uses the sensors at the bottom of the Joy Cons. If you look at the bottom of the Switch, there are little screens, and that's supposed to be like augmented reality sensors. They register places around you, and I've seen some rumors, or maybe there was some concursory material of like having the Switch click to a thing you put on your face, so you can use it as a 3D environment thing.
Mm.
Now, the Switch does not have the power. Just pure raw RAM. It can't handle that. The poor thing would cough and splutter. It would be coughing up blood within 30 minutes. But the Switch 2, that might have enough bang for its buck that we can start pulling out some new ways of playing, but using the old hardware, using the old style. People who want to play the old way, just a handheld, got it in your hand, you go for it. But maybe there's enough of the old guard that they'll start taking that old infrastructure, that old hardware, and coming up with new ways of playing. That's
Yeah.
hypothetical. That's just me thinking out loud.
You,
But
I think
I'd like that idea.
I like, one thing everybody, when we set up this channel in the first place, we were thinking about the angle we take. We would be historians, like the gaming historian and stuff like that. And then I was thinking that we should speculate based on our history, our knowledge of the past, because of course it gives us more of a more things to say. We can be on the journey with you. We're all trying to figure out what's next.
If you're trying to figure out what's coming next, we have to at least acknowledge what came before.
Exactly, and it's more fun. I really enjoy this one. Now that being said, you said brought up a good point about the Nintendo's roots in the toy um, toy manufacturing sector or industry, and it's interesting because those of you who you'll see soon everybody. This like I said, this channel is going to start including some educational stuff. I mean, working a lot with robotics, like with Lego, Spike, and so on with kids, and one thing I love about teaching kids Lego Spike because you have I work with kids who like Minecraft and they like Lego, and robotics with Lego is beautiful because it's something that anyone can see. Anybody you can give kids. We've both worked with kids and the kids who are like super babies. If you give them these giant Lego bricks, they know what to do with them intuitively. This goes here and whatnot. And the same can be said with the eldest kids. You can give them small Lego pieces, but they just want to make stuff with it. And the Minecraft or Roblox, I suppose, but Minecraft is more like there's Minecraft education. This stuff that you can intuitively go ahead and start building, and it just kids are addicted to this stuff. But what I'm trying to say is, the reason I bring this up is to say that one thing I didn't like about AR, the headsets and all that stuff, is especially if you're talking about start strapping it to your eyes. I personally recommend blue eye glass filter. But anyway, that's one thing at the very least. But it's the idea that it locks you away. Oh, nice. I wish I had my specs. I broke them, so I'll buy some new ones. I'm jealous. But yeah. But what I'm saying was,
Isolates you.
go on. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
what you're saying.
It isolates you, and yeah, and what I was saying was that when you now again, I play the PlayStation for the headset, the Oculus Rift kind of thing, and I appreciate it that I've people in the room. I'm playing it; they can see what I'm doing. It's like if I'm looking around, the room moves too. Oh, that kind of makes sense. It's not exactly the same thing. So if you had an actual thing in the room, like a Lego toy, everyone can see it from every angle, and you can turn it into a moving thing. That would be great. I think at some point in the future, robotics will start to work their way into the games experience, but it will be in a company like Nintendo to do it because they're very toy based. But
Labo, build your own controller.
I love that about Labo, and
But
again, but with the
hell, do you remember Rob the Robot? Back in the NES day, you had a toy that you controlled using the game controller. Now it was a terrible game.
Oh,
well, Rob the Robot from
Rob
Smash. Rob the Robot from Smash. He was a toy. He was a physical toy. You got with a game, and you play the game by setting up commands and having Rob the Robot move toys around, and it activated controls within the game. It was basically player one, player two. You could just hold two controllers. But it was still novel. It was novel having to command the robot to open doors within the game. So within the game, you couldn't progress unless the robot was on your side. But it was it's very clever. But it was such a rudimentary concept at the beginning. But you can see, they've got that. Try that I did, and then they've got Labo, build your own controller, build the controller for the game that you want to play. You can see this technology moving forward, progressing forward, giving you kind of pieces to build the controller, and then depending on the game, hell, the WarioWare series has you use the controller, whatever controller comes with the game, in different ways. I played it on Wii. That is a blast because you are literally using the Joy-Con, the Wiimote, in lots of different ways. I think that we need more games like this, more games that will push or change the way that we can play. I know that the default will always be a controller in my hands, two stick controllers, one to move, one for camera, because it's comfortable. And there are some games that just want that. The story-based games, the Oscar bait games, your Last of Us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Those games, great. Tell me a story. I'll work my way through the story naturally. But I don't like the idea of limiting ourselves to only one way of doing things. Games are art. Let's
Yes.
let's push that art. You know?
I feel that we'll see, we'll see. Again, the Switch 2. Sorry, good grief. With Switch 2, let's jump into it. And thanks for
Yes.
answering these questions, Game Dan. I just wanted to get your
No, it's
take on
good.
it over the
I
top.
say I am excited to see what comes, but again, I mentioned before that I think that the biggest barrier to the current era of video gaming is the publishers. They've kind of gotten into a mindset, a
Yeah.
rut, and we need to have that paradigm shift. There was a great analogy made by Zero Punctuation's Yahtzee Croshaw. He said that film industry got bigger and bigger and bigger, growing from simple roots to bigger epics to like the Ben-Hurs with a whole armies of extras and giant sets. But it wasn't until after the Ben-Hur epics that we got the small intimate films. We got the 70s Easy Riders and the small personable films that took the film from the spectacle to the art, to the human condition. And I think we're kind of on that shift. The games have reached a point where they're so big now that one game will make or break a studio. That we can't survive like that. Big studios
True.
can't survive like that. So they're going to need to dial it back. And the more indie games that come out, especially now that there's non-disclosures, now there's no competes. The America's changing the rules for the non-competes, meaning that people who work for one company can leave, go to a similar company, and bring their experience with them. Before, if you joined a company, you had to stay with that company, or you couldn't work in the industry. And
Wow.
so many talented individuals were hampered, were basically shackled from ever bringing their talent and their experience to new games. Not anymore. Now we actually have a deluge of people getting fired by the big companies. Bankers. Sorry. Bleep
Yes.
us. But they can now take that experience, take those ideas, take the genesis, the concepts they came up with when they were working for the big companies, and bring them to the indie sphere. Like a level of quality, a level of passion, a level of talent that can be brought into the indie sphere that will push indie games from what we call indies into like the BA games. The BA
So,
games are the golden era of PlayStation 2, and I do think this will be the shift. It'll be decentralizing. It'll be big publishers trying to snap up all these new companies, but they're just going to keep ruining it. Smaller companies is where the industry is going to go. We're going to get more of these smaller, more intimate titles that are going to really, really shape the way it's done.
wow, that's a big deal, man. That's a big deal. I'm looking forward to
Mm.
seeing indie titles with that kind of quality behind them.
And anything that screws over one of those big publishing houses, I'm
That's the
pro.
thumbnail. That's the thumbnail, man. Yo. I'm gonna
I am
timestamp
pro.
that.
Anything that fucks over those publishers, anytime, anywhere, anyone.
Na, na,
Let's
na, na. Yes,
na
that's the
na na
thumbnail.
na.
Let's do it, man. So what video are we checking out
Right.
today?
We are watching Arlo's speculation on the Switch 2 based upon some fairly credible inside information. Apparently we're getting leaks from not gaming on the gaming side, but on the tech company side. The companies that are producing the technology or mass producing the technology, they are leaking, which historically has been a really good source of accurate information. Because people in the gaming industry both NDA'd all up to the nines, but also want to keep it a secret. They want to make the game a success. They want to make the company a success. But
Mm.
the guys who are just making the chips, you know, they knew whatever the hell they want. They're selling the product. The gaming company is the one that needs the chips. So hell,
There you go. All right, oh, when you're ready, Chef. He also Arlo dropped a video said if Switch 2 may have magnetic Joy-Cons. I hope not.
nope, not the
Right?
man. No, you want the one that has a picture of the Switch with a
Ah,
2 on it and equals.
but in any case, your because you're recording, can you share? Can you
Sure.
show the video?
Yeah,
Because it's clear better
absolutely.
from your side.
That it is. That it is. Right. One
But that being
moment.
said, I think magnetic Joy-Cons are a mistake. What do you think?
I think it. I thought, past tense, it was a great idea until I was informed, I was shown how poorly effective they are with the iPhone. The wireless charging on the iPhone is just a damn terrible process, and the idea of using that for the Joy-Con, it's so dumb. I mean, yeah, have it magnetically attached, but then have like a little switch, a little lock to lock it in place. Because when I'm playing, especially handheld, I get a little bit excited, and if it's just magnetic, it's gonna pop off.
Yeah, not to mention the only thing, the real issue I have against magnets is if you leave it touching your phone in your pocket without realizing, your phone will have a big mark down the middle, and it's
Yeah.
all over. It could even I screwed over. I think I had a Game Boy. Yeah, I had a bunch of magnets in my pocket, and I was like, yeah, I love magnets. These, the super strong ones that like you can stick to whiteboard. Yeah, I got those and got a Game Boy in my pocket. I left it on the screen. A Game Boy screen was liquid Terminator splodge, and it was
Mm.
just finished. There you go. And you can ruin your hard drives, ruin your USBs, ruin everything. So I say, no, Nintendo, don't do it. Anyway, if they're thinking,
I. It's a nice idea. But we
yeah,
still don't know the full workings of the Switch 2. We don't know. Are they going to change the Joy Cons in any noticeable way? We know that it has to be comparable to the first Switch, or at least we acknowledge that it should be. But that doesn't mean they can't shift them up. The Switch 2 Joy Cons might have some other variations, some other technological who's or what's it's with it.
mm,
And magnet. I just don't like. Maybe I'm just old. I just don't like the idea of a magnet with my computer. I just don't. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just don't like the idea of whacking a magnet next to my computer. It just seems like a dumb idea.
I agree. Yeah, I've broken a lot more things than even mentioned with magnets.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. You're the host. Can you give me
Oh
sharing?
right, I haven't done that. Bloody hell. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, we
Share
spend more. We
options.
spend so much time debating these things and talking about all this stuff. We don't even do the tech. We need a little sign that
Yeah,
says,
bloody hell. So
careful.
yeah, yeah. I'll put the sign up on the back here. A reminder. Do you think you can share it now? I think I've done it.
Let's see.
Yeah, I think you have
Yes. Yeah,
permission.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
Okay.
let's do this.
Right. Can you see the screen?
I can.
Should
And
be
it's
all
white.
white. All white.
It's doing my eyes in. Yeah.
Right.
That does it. I'm going. Is it?
Okay.
Switch 2 rumor time, but you know what? This is gotta be the one. This is gonna be the one that ends up being true. It actually is a pretty big one. A lot of people do seem to be quite confident in it. The information kind of seems to be coming from all over the place, with a number of people corroborating it at the very least. A lot of it comes from Centro Leaks, who cited a Brazilian streamer named TVPH. A lot of it from a user named LIC from Famiboards. I don't know. Point is, though, it seems that they are using data from shipments and customs between Nintendo, Nvidia, and other companies. Seems complicated to me, but for whatever reason, this makes it seem pretty plausible for a number of people. I honestly don't know. Just give me the info, the rumor. We'll talk about it, all the other details, whatever. So if this ends up being accurate, if this is actually leaked info about the Switch 2, then that would mean that we now know the Switch 2's specs. We know more or less how powerful it is. Well, okay, not necessarily. We don't have. I don't know if we have info on the CPU or the GPU, but we have the whatever. I'll just read it. Okay, 12
Okay.
gigabytes of RAM with two 6 gigabyte LPDDR5X modules. I know what most of that means,
Okay.
but I'm not
I
going to
don't.
say it. Don't have time. But I do know that 12 gigs of RAM is nothing to shake a stick at. It's really not bad. And allegedly, it will also have 256 gigabytes of UFS 3.1 storage. Once more, don't know what UFS 3.1 is, but I know that 256 gigabytes. That's not bad. It's
still
really
great.
not bad. I mean, the original
500 at least.
32, I'm thinking like, what are they going to give us? 64? Like. Nintendo loves to cheap out on that kind of thing. But like 256, okay, yeah, all right. We'll be able to download like a few games, maybe. So that's pretty good. People are also saying that there's going to be a microphone in the controller. I would assume that whatever is in the controller is also going to be either in the Joy-Cons or the system itself. So some sort of built-in microphone might end up being a thing, which would, I don't know, suggest more communication.
There it is. IR motion camera on the Joy-Cons. Right at the beginning, when I mentioned that this was unrealized technology, I think this was supposed to be more implemented in the current generation, but will pan out. Like it wasn't up to snuff, or the games didn't really work out. Hey, try, and the worst thing you can do is not try. Failure is you'll learn from it. But right there, I think this might become more of a thing in the future.
Dude, I'm thinking, think about it for a second. Go back in time. Oh no, okay. I was gonna tell a lie. So Nintendo, the NES, then the SNES, or SNES, as we call it, and then the N64. They were all success. GameCube, was that also a success?
GameCube was, but it was overshadowed because the GameCube was at the same period as the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
So GameCube was a modest success. It wasn't unpopular, but it was up against the PlayStation 2, which had a DVD player.
And that's it. It's all over. And then
I gotta say that was a big selling point. People are like, you buy this. The DVD players at that time were a couple $100, so you might as well just buy the PlayStation 2, get the DVD player, and a game console at the same time. Such smart move.
And it's funny because that's the one thing I always use as a way to say to myself, PlayStation is not purely a game company, of course, and because they keep trying to converge all this technology and just try and sell it as say like, wow, if the game doesn't appeal to you, you can at least watch DVDs. I'm like, no, it should be a game machine. Do you understand? So I'm like, but at the same time, they were smart because they knew that's because they're a technology company, so they're also promoting their own technology company. That's something I have to grow up and appreciate. It's not just doing it because they're trying to win over different people, but they're promoting Sony.
Yeah, I get I am absolutely in the same PP pod, buddy. Brothers in arms. I want my console to be a console, to be designed for the most thorough and engaging and varied gaming experience. I don't want a home entertainment unit. I don't want what Xbox was doing, like, hey, you watch TV and watch movies and listen to music. I'm like, no. Just, I want to play games. Yeah. Every time you take away from the games, I'm getting less game.
Yes, exactly.
If I wanted to listen to music, I've got a music player. If I wanted to watch TV, I've got Smegging TV.
That is why I revered Sega and Nintendo at the height of the thing, because they were game consoles, about that. And even though the Atari, the Atari is Mr. Bushnell. Bushnell set up Atari, right?
Yeah.
Oh well, I'm sure he's kicking himself right now. But hey, I mean, at least they had a good run. But hey, Nintendo was the last bastion, so it seems, for pure hardcore unadulterated gaming.
Yeah.
That being said, then the Wii came, then Nintendo jumped up again. Then the Wii U came, and it's funny. It's like now again, not to mention along the side you had the Game Boys coming up, and that was nothing. That was nothing to that was no passing. So that was no passing crazy. Yeah. Passing crazy. Yeah.
Well,
so
I think that's one of the reasons why they pivoted towards the Switch and even the Wii U, because the handheld market, they dominated it. They were the handheld market. But other companies have released their own handhelds, the PlayStation Portable, the PS Vita, which I contend is a fantastic gaming machine. I love my PlayStation Vita. I still have it, and occasionally I'll take it out, dust it off, and play some Final Fantasy on it. It's basically a dedicated Final Fantasy unit for me at this point. But when you think handheld, you think Game Boy. Game Boy dominated that market, and it even during their tough times, when people talk about the dark ages of the Wii U and the lull of the GameCube, they were propped up by some pretty impressive handheld sales. They were kept. They diversified, but again, they diversified into other purely gaming devices rather than other kinds of technology. I think it's a little bit like they had their cake and they ate it. They diversified as a company, but they still got the clout and respect of being a gaming-focused unit. And yeah, you're right. The older of us want a gaming unit, but more younger viewers may disagree with us. Younger viewers may be like, hey, we want a thing that does everything.
Yes.
Like a tablet, You use a tablet, and I use a tablet for reading, for studying, for entertainment, for music, for videos, for games, everything. It's all in one place. And I can absolutely see the positives of it.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. We got, again, so Sony PlayStation 2, again, they're converging their Sony DVD players with the machine. Now the Switches are technically converged their portables with their home consoles.
Yeah.
Think about it by bringing that, and which is smart. And that's how they have the power. Now that being said, like you said, with the way you have phones these days, these supercomputers have all these things on them. Naturally, people would not bat an eye at the idea of a console having all these bells and whistles attached or built in. But therefore, this is why I think Sony stepped out. Sony has their own phones, right? So
yeah, I have a Sony phone. I have an Xperia.
So therefore, they're thinking, what's the point of doing a Vita? Let's just make our handhelds do what they do, and Microsoft have their phones. So Nintendo partnered with Apple to put out Mario's and
yeah. The problem is that I could absolutely see Nintendo pulling off a really good phone, but because their brand is so intrinsically tied to games and toys and younger aimed demographic. So I'm trying to remember who said this quote, but they said, if they released a Nintendo branded phone, it would be like a Kinder Price washing machine. You're like, no, that doesn't feel right. They would have, I have no doubt that they could, and they could even produce a great phone. Yeah. But whether the market would buy it,
I don't think so. And I think it'd be like the image is like it's like a walkie-talkie or something.
Yeah.
But I mean that's what some people think is out. Nintendo, please. But I'm sure that they could surprise people.
They've done it before. They've pulled off some, and it's impressive what they've pulled off with what little they can do in the past. Being a there was a statistic that came out in the 90s that said that the three biggest companies that promote or push forward new technologies for mass consumption. Number one, obviously the military. They get the best toys straight away because it's war, Second, the video game industry. They push and they have the best tech for commercial use before everyone. And third, porn.
Exactly, because they said where people need this technology, or at least where the usage of it is
most effective.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the promise of gaming is intrinsically tied to what we're playing it on. Lots of games, lots of companies sell this idea of powerful machines, of capable in adventures, but it's kind of a hand-in-hand thing. The companies want that the console owners want to sell units, but you can't sell units without the games. So the console owners sell this idea of the most powerful or the best console, and they try to attract people to produce games. The ones that get the best games, the ones that get sold. Nintendo's brought all that in-house. They're never going to produce the strongest ones, but they also produce the best games in-house. They're not courting any others. They're not buying up other companies to make their games. The Marios, the Zeldas, the Metroids, the F-Zero X's, the Smashes, that's all them, baby. And Pokemon, like the number one franchise on Earth, that's in-house. That's a Nintendo-owned company. So they're not forced to produce the best technology in order to court companies, to get companies to produce for them. The biggest titles are just going to be on their console, period. It's about producing a machine that creates the best experience. And it's like we mentioned earlier, how the Nintendo leans towards better experiences in gaming rather than most powerful games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, to be frank, also, I mean, calling out the elephant in the room, when it comes to these companies that are not putting the gaming first to the point where they're not even focused on the in-house stuff first, I think
Yeah.
they are more politically free as well. And the reason why I say that is because, again, there's still a base off that. We can't avoid it. It's everywhere right now. It's when people, just like I'm an artist who's independent versus one who's signed to a label. When somebody wants to do their own thing and somebody says, no, 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 I'm paying you. Even like these universities that a lot of their money comes from donors more than even the students. They're gonna do what the donors say more than what the students even need.
They're going to try and find a strike a balance. I mean, every company needs an income in order to survive. I don't begrudge anyone for trying to make a buck, but is it at the cost of your own product?
Yeah,
Are you
exactly.
producing a diminished product because you're trying to, capitalize upon it? And unfortunately, you see this more and more. People are getting a look under the hood. It's not just gaming. There are lots of industries that have been hampered
Yeah,
by the need for rising cost, but rising costs, but also the need to capitalize and to produce more.
I
It's a
agree. I
damn
actually
shame.
agree, man. Yeah, this is the I guess the dark side of capitalism, if you will, that you have to do what you got to do to survive monetarily. But as you say, you got to think in the long game, because if you burn yourself out trying to please everybody, and you're not there in the end, then it would have been better if you sit on your stand by your morals, or stick by your original mission statement and say this is what we do, and that's not, excuse me. But like you said, you have to strike a balance because you can't always fund
Yeah.
everything. So yeah,
You got to be smart. It's Square Enix deleting so many goddamn games in production was
mm,
shame. But there was, I remember, a full page advert produced by a young company back in the days of floppy disks. And they said that we want to create art, we want to create experiences that bring gamers together, and we are pledged to do this.
mm.
That company was EA, Electronic Arts. They were a bunch of gamers who came together and said, we want to produce great electronic art. Now look at them.
Most hated. We hate you.
The most
That's the
hated
funniest.
company. Like, was it like 5 years in a row? The gas companies was on our car. The politicians are butt fucking us, but we hate fucking EA more than everyone.
That's funny as hell. Yeah, exactly. I love when Guru Larry said is that they've beaten all sorts of scumbags to reach the top of the list. That is the funniest thing I've ever heard. The idea of being a champ, winning the prize for being the most hated is the funniest thing I've heard in a long time. But yeah, boy. So, dude.
It's not undeserved though. It's not
Yeah.
undeserved. Right, continuing.
Yeah,
Let's
let's check it out.
get back onto this. Right. So
Yeah,
he's mentioned that this is going to be
let me cough on.
a big ass machine. It's going to have a lot of RAM, a lot of powerful chips. But let's see what it's capable of.
Mm.
I guess not a camera, but just a microphone. A little bit interesting. And then there's some other information that we've had for a while that is being further corroborated, such as the Switch 2 having an 8-inch display and being fully backwards compatible. Those are two things that a lot of people are saying, so I would not be surprised if it ended up being true. One issue, though, is that one source is saying that the Switch 2 will have an 8-core Cortex A7 8AE processor, but then that same source says that it will have 8 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage, which is inconsistent with the other leak, so, which one do you believe? Either one of those is untrue, or they are both untrue. Both of those outcomes seem just as
Funny.
likely. So
Yeah.
if all of this is true, then that would suggest that the Switch 2 will not just be about as powerful as a PS4, but a PS4 Pro. And that, to me, is really surprising. And I've said it before, whenever anyone suggests that it's going to be stronger than like a, Xbox One, PS4, that gets me feeling pretty skeptical, mostly because I just don't know why it would be. Nintendo is only going to make their system as powerful as they need it to be. the Switch was really underpowered, and it still got the job done really well. And so at this point, like, if they're always one generation behind, then PS4, Xbox One, that's exactly what you need to aim for. Why would they need it to be stronger than that? And my only real thinking is that maybe we're just at this point where the tech is just getting that good. You know, mobile chips are just getting cheaper and cheaper, so it didn't really cost them that much to make it that powerful. Maybe just somehow it ended up being surprisingly convenient to make it as strong as like a PS4 Pro. And you know what? It could suggest that they're pivoting slightly in their whole philosophy. Switch.
Before we go into the whole philosophy, because this is the interesting part of the video, I want to ask you, what's your opinion on that? Has casual technology reached a point where it's surprising to you and I, where it's you know, microization, microchips and readily available chips are so powerful that they are almost modern generation tech? Because when I conceptualize it, when I think of, like, consoles are comparable now to PCs, but PCs are adaptable. You can take it apart and add more to it. That was the benefit of a PC, is that you could make your PC stronger. You couldn't take apart your console. You got what you got. So each generation tried to be as strong as it could so that it would last longer. And then gradually, as it, you know, the lifespan went along, they wrung more and more and more out of the console, but they couldn't improve it. Yeah, little things here and there. The Nintendo 64 RAM chip that plugged in at the front, you know, expansions to the PlayStation 3. But for the most part, it is what it is. But PC gaming was so much more adaptable. You could edit the game, go into the files and change it, or change the PC. You could do what you need to do to make the game work. That was the appeal of the PC. The appeal of the console was you bought the damn thing, you put the game in, you played. Done. No thought required. Just play the damn game. But has tech reached a point where the two are comparable? The tech that we can get current generation tech for our console reasonably?
I think, okay, first thing, before we even answer that question, I'm thinking that this whole thing about like Nintendo maybe coming out of the shell to make these things more powerful than they need to be. Maybe, like you said, due to the new management, or not the new management, the new generation, the new guard.
The new guard, the new guys taking over, the new CEO of those, the new business strategy.
Because it seems like that's one way to make sure that it will sell more if it looks fancier. But and now back to answer your question. Excuse me. I think, yeah, I think. But I also think, okay, here's what I think. I think AI is making the production of even a lot of these things a lot easier, to the point where they can even afford to promise such things, such high spec aspects of the console that is comparative to PC experience, because because it's AI. but yeah, ultimately, are we in that state? I think yes, of course, but it's maybe due to computers getting better at hacking these things, and again AI. So the more I think, and also, yeah, as far as hacking is concerned, to kind of break it apart, figure out what you're dealing with is concerned. Like, you know, all the way from back when we used to people say, my PlayStation is chipped. It can play games from other countries." People these days, yeah. I mean, my Wii. I just let everybody know. I got a lot of torrent games on my Wii back in England. I'll just say it because I didn't have a lot of money. But that being said, you can just go on YouTube and just look at how to do it, and there's videos all over the place. Just do
Availability and price are the greatest greatest allies to piracy. If you can't buy the game and you can't find the game, you're gonna pirate it.
Yeah, I think Top Game Man, same thing. He says, and seriously, to be honest with you, that's a bit of a cop out. The truth be told, I wanted to play certain games that I just couldn't find. Like you said, some games are just off the. And I'm like, you know what? I really
pirate it.
Yeah, I said.
I'm not ashamed of it. If you can't, if the company's not offering the game, pirate it. If the company is offering the game, but it's the exorbitant price, pirate it. If they offer me the game at a reasonable price, I'll buy it.
I'll buy it. I'll buy
If
it.
they are reasonable with me, I'll be reasonable with them. I want to support the company. I want to because I like the game, and I want to see them make more of the game. But if they're not going to let me get their product, I'm going to get it some other way.
That is it, and I think that's what's going on. Even when it comes to things like the money thing I was talking about earlier, some people I think they're trying to pick apart these things, and trying to figure out how can we get this thing to give us what we want it to give us. While games, I was watching a video from Lady Decade the other day. I think did a reaction to it about about are we going through a second video game crash? Some games prices are quite interestingly high to the point where people are thinking, you know what, maybe we should just pick the thing apart and go everybody go rogue hacker and just
Mm.
see if we can figure out how the sausage is made, so to speak. And now we're in a state where people have turned these things into PC games,
Yeah.
which so I
No,
think
I
it's
get it. I don't think. I think that we won't be in the in. We won't be in the market for another video game crash because we have the market has diversified so much. There are too many markets now. When gaming was controlled by a small selection of companies, it was isolated. It was contained enough that a problem caused everyone to crash. It crashes that everyone gets screwed. No one gets out of it unscathed. But because it's so diversified, because there are so many companies around so many different countries, even if the larger companies crash, the indie market will just take up the slack.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so much of the market now is not these big companies; it is smaller companies. You know,
That's it.
so if there was a crash, it wouldn't be seen as such. It would just be seen as like the death of the old guard or the end of the big three.
Exactly.
So.
But yeah, if
Well,
they could.
I wouldn't want them to go because I wouldn't trust them to do right by the IPs.
Good point. Yeah, I think
No.
that's
If other companies could step in and take those IPs, I would be happy. I wouldn't mind the larger companies crashing. Yeah, it's a lot of livelihoods, and I do feel bad for the people who get screwed by the guys at the top.
mm,
But it's sometimes you need to cut out the wound. A
mm,
band-aid ain't gonna fix
definitely.
a broken bone. You
Especially.
have to take radical steps to prevent further damage. And I would want people to diversify. I want the workers to go to somewhere where they're treated better, and someone who's going to treat those IPs, those games and characters who we love better.
Mhm. I put this lot this down on the state of the economy and the central bank. This is smashing up fiat right now. But so
I
yeah.
It's not entirely their own fault. I do think we're kind of in a tough. Everyone is in a tough time right now. We're in a period of change, and it started with technological advancements. It started with internet and social media. The way we communicate is different. The way we're able to gather information and identify things is different, and these differences have caused ripples and changes, and these things are. It's like an ongoing current. The ripples became waves, and now it's a bit of a turbulent time. We don't have as much stability as we once had from curated, controlled, old institutions. But I don't think it's an entirely bad thing. I do think that these changes could bring out some better options, and more people are going to get a better shake. Um, but I think I hold true during times like this where especially when I'm nervous about what's going on and I'm seeing things that I don't like. I hold true to Master Splinter's adage, is that change is the only constant.
Yeah, yeah,
Whether you like it or not, things are going to change. The best thing you can do is try and make those changes positive.
yeah. That is it. I love the wisdom in these shows. But oh, sorry. I guess yeah, we can keep going.
Keep going. Yes, we're going to continue with the video. Let's see what's going to be happening.
Switch 2, instead of doing another kind of underpowered system a little bit behind the competition so they can keep costs low, it could be. I mean, this is a whole thing. I've been thinking about this recently. I almost want to do like a whole video just on this, kind of setting up this theory, but I'll just spoil it now. What if the Switch was so successful, it's still selling so well that they're like, we should introduce the new system and actually make it a bit more powerful than we would have originally and price it higher than we would normally price our new systems. Make it a little bit more in line with the other like current gen systems. Make it like a luxury item. So it means that it will get fewer sales right off the bat. But in the meantime, the Switch is still selling, they reduce the price of the original Switch, make that this incredible budget system, just keep riding that Switch one wave as long as they can. Then eventually the tech gets cheaper and cheaper, and once they have finally sold as many Switches as they possibly can, now look at that, we can reduce the price on the Switch 2, and now we have this much more powerful system that we are now, after a couple years, able to sell at a much more affordable, much more competitive price. If it is true that the Switch 2 is about as powerful as a PS4 Pro, then that could be what Nintendo is doing. It absolutely could. It's either that or it just wasn't that expensive to make it that powerful because the tech just happens to be there. I don't know, but yeah, like I said, if it is that strong, that's just so far beyond what I expected. So like, that would be great.
I think this also ties into what Square Enix announced recently. They said that after the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy 16, they're not going to do console exclusives anymore. They're going to be selling to Nintendo and to Xbox on launch instead of later. If other companies are more willing to diversify as well to try and get a bigger pot and less exclusives, having a Switch console, even the luxury console that is comparable to a PS4 Pro, you can play the current Final Fantasy VII games on that. Yeah. You can play the current level of Final Fantasy games on that. You can play a lot of games that are, people are currently playing now. You can play Apex Legends well on that. That could be their, this is a long-term strategy. The idea that they would release the Switch 2 as a luxury and not an essential, but keep the Switch as the essential, but just bring it down a price which boosts the sales. Try and get that over that line, get it to be the number one sold. Even the first year or so is usually quite a turbulent time for a new console. It's getting games out, it's getting people to buy it. Yeah, a lot of people are early adopters, but it's difficult when there isn't a lot to buy. Switch did so well because its first year, they came out swinging. A lot of big titles. Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Splatoon, Mario Kart, came out right at the beginning. Their first year, in that first year, boom, boom, boom. There was almost like a big title a month. People were buying this thing like gangbusters because there was something to play. But I remember I bought the PS2 when it first came out. And the only thing I played for about a month was Onimusha. Great game, but I completed it like 4 times because it was the only thing I had. There weren't a lot of games on there. And if you look at the history, there isn't a lot of games at the beginning. So maybe release the Switch 2 as a luxury, release some great titles, some big name titles for it, but slow it down a little bit, It's more of a port. Start getting some of those PlayStation games, getting some of those Xbox games on it. And then when the Switch is finally at the end of its life, there's already a large enough catalog of games on the 2, including the Switch games, that people switch over.
So it reminds me of what we were saying earlier about the well, of course we're talking about first of all slowly trying to move the goalposts, but I guess squeezing everything you can out of this Switch thing to try and get it out over the finish box. I mean, it'll be, to be honest, that's a good strategy, but boy, like you said, these new Switch could take on some of the newest titles. Whereas the old one, to keep selling the old one, that would be very interesting.
If they brought the price down a little bit more, they've already released like a lighter version. It doesn't have Joy-Cons. It just has like a single console, and that's selling pretty well. It's it's just a shade cheaper than a regular Switch, and it's a little bit smaller, a little cute. It's for the kids, and it's a reasonable price. If they brought the price down further, people would just pick this up on a whim. It's cheap enough that you could splurge on it on a whim. It's not like a major investment. But I do think that this might be the rumblings of some major changes to Nintendo's mission statement. Yeah. This is more of a modern business strategy as opposed to a a classic Nintendo move. Classic Nintendo was lean into your own strengths. But this feels like a calculated decision not to produce the best game console, but to produce a console that both appeals to some gamers, but also encourages people to buy the old console.
To be honest, this is why I've been so quiet because I'm actually wondering what to say. I haven't. I'm trying to think of something to compare it to, but it's very new. So
For,
okay,
for Nintendo, it's new. I think it's. I just don't like the idea. I like it's a good business strategy. It will encourage people to buy the old console. It does allow for people who want the new one to buy it and get early adopted. You know, Nintendo has always rewarded fans who jumped on early. I was one of the first people to get. I was one of the early adopters of the 3DS, and I got one of the first 3DSs when it came out. I was there for the midnight launch. But there was little to nothing to play on it. And for a while, for like a year or so, it was pretty hard strung. And so what they did was they dropped the price. It wasn't selling. People weren't interested, so they dropped the price notably. But to everyone who did jump on ahead of time, everyone who bought the console at the launch, they released the Nintendo Ambassador reward system, where they gave you a little trophy for your console, and they gave you 10 unplayable games. Only you could get these games. You couldn't buy them. They were not on the market.
wow.
And
Oh,
these was Metroid Fusion. This was the WarioWare 4.
Yeah,
This
I
was,
remember.
Link, a Zelda
Ocarina.
game.
Yeah, I remember.
So it was
I remember. Yes.
it was a really nice thing to do, and it didn't cost them anything. They were just releasing a game they already had. They weren't making anything new, but they were rewarding people who jumped on. So I think that if they go the luxury item path, and they're like, hey, we're going to release the Switch 2. It's going to be massively powerful. It's comparable to modern generation of rival companies, but it is expensive. This is a pricey thing. Look at the games that you can play, but you can also play everything else. People who do jump on, I think there might be a reward. They might kind of incentivize a reward for those who do jump on a little bit early. But unfortunately, these things, they play into the FOMO idea. Fear of losing out, get it now, gotta get it now. And I'm not a fan of that strategy because it feels very short-sighted. It feels alienating to your fans.
Exactly. That's what Microsoft and Sony do because they're
Yeah,
all about.
and not a fan of it.
Yeah, me too. It's short-lived. It looks a bit like Eminem. I remember listening to Eminem's songs, and I noticed that his songs, I find some of them would age quickly because he talk about stuff that is hot topic
now.
at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Hey,
future,
at the moment, it's banger, man. A lot of his, I love Eminem. Most of his work, I know well. But yeah, I agree. Some of his songs, they don't hold up.
Yeah, because
unless you remember that who the hell he was talking about.
Yes.
Shit, I'm real shady. Here's a whole thing about Christina Aguilera.
Yeah.
You're like, who? Is that a thing? Is that a thing at this moment anymore? I mean, yeah, she's still around, but are they still having beef, or is that long and forgotten?
Exactly. So that's what. So whereas Nintendo are more grounded in doing something that lasts. I mean, classic. I guess, like you said, it's gonna come down to the game. It's gonna come down to the playing experience. If you got something that is like the Switch experience. I mean, how old is the Switch now? 10 years?
7 or 8, maybe 8 or 9. It's pushing 10. It's pushing 10 years.
And it's still relevant. Even though, of course, we have other things to use, it's still relevant because Nintendo honed in on an actual gameplay mechanic or the experience in a way that allows for longevity. Now, I mean, that being said, how long was the short PS4? How long did that last?
PS4 to
PS5.
For the PS5. That was a little longer than most because the average generation is about 6 or 7 years. No, it's about 5-6 years, and then 7 years is when it was pushing it. Like, you're going past the generation. But it's usually like half a year, a little over half a decade. Sorry. So PlayStation 3 came out around the same time as the GameCube. I was at college, so I was at high school for you Yanks. Then PS4 would have been 2015, 2016.
Oh, it's pretty long.
It's a long one. The generations are getting longer because they're more powerful, and
Yeah.
they're not improving as much. Each leap before was massive,
Yeah.
but now the improvements aren't that much better.
And some people may say it's because of the whole lockdown situation that we had that slowed
That
things.
disrupted everything. That's it's like a year or two that we can't count
Yeah.
because little to nothing got
Olympics.
done. If you didn't already have the material produced, you weren't producing much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a fair.
Yeah.
But I do think the Switch is old. It's definitely old. Wait a minute, is it? Was the Switch Switch rele- Switch release 2017? So 7 years.
Yeah.
So
roughly the same time to PS4.
yeah, average console generation about 5 years. Yeah, about half a decade.
Yeah. So
I think 5 to 6 because there's a tailing off period. You know, it's still relevant even when the next generation's out. But yeah, 7 years is like you are grey in the ears.
Yeah.
And even now, you can see a lot of the games that they're releasing aren't graphically impressive. They're fun, but the console hasn't pushed anything for a while.
Sure. Dude, tell me, by the way, yes, when you mentioned college, in the UK we call it sixth form college, which is what they call high school. Yeah. But that makes sense.
America's senior years are our college.
Right, exactly. Really? Oh well. But that being said, what am I saying? Last thing I'll say before I press play, because we're at the last section of the video, is bloody hell, give me that, help me out. It was to do with I think it was to do with oh, there we go. In Japan, people, we're not in touch with, well, I'm not at least in touch with Xbox as I once was. What's the latest? So after Xbox One, what came after that?
Okay, there was the Xbox, then there was the 360, then the Xbox One, and then the latest generation was the Xbox
Series?
Xbox generations. Yeah, Xbox 360, then they had a few variations, then they had the Xbox One, and now it's the Series X. Xbox Series X is the latest one.
Is the equivalent of the PS5?
Oh yeah.
Mm.
The Xbox
now-
Series S and X are pretty comparable to the
You know what's funny?
PlayStation.
So you know what's funny about this Switch business is that it's obvious that Nintendo is trying to get that number one spot for the most consoles sold, and I think it's hilarious that Nintendo that Sony want to tease them with this shifting of the goalpost because it's like it's enough already. Bring out the next console. No, and so it makes no matter what Nintendo may would love to get that. Sorry, of course we'd love to get the number one spot, but the fact that they had to wring out their console so damn much just to get it, it shows it's still not as powerful as the PS2's impact was, because PS2 got that number one spot rather sharpish. Whereas the Switch has to, of course, naturally, technically, a win is a win, but if now the PS2 is the PlayStation is shift the goalposts with how much they actually sold. If Nintendo still didn't get it, it's a bit like, could the Mario movie make more money than Frozen 2? Frozen 2, I think, yeah. And if the answer is no, then you just have to move on and bring out the next one and try again. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they should keep trying to ring this cloth?
I think it's not unreasonable because the cost of creating a new technology, new tech is hard to build. All right, R&D for new tech is long and hard, and sometimes you go into a whole direction, you work on something, and it doesn't pan out. That's the reality of the cutting edge. A lot of people bleed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on a personal statement, my mother's brother he's a very, very intelligent man. He went into medicine, he went into academics, and then he went into research, and he worked for a major pharmaceutical company, developing what he thought was going to be like a next generation heart pill. And he worked for over 10 years on this damn thing, but it didn't work. Everything they did, everything they tried. Early testing was promising, but the reality was is it just didn't do what they wanted. And it wasn't like Viagra. It was a hard pill that turned out gave you a dick, give you a hard dick. It just didn't work. It didn't work as what it was intended to do. So, they all went, well done for your work. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
What do you do from there? That sometimes stuff doesn't pan out. And so creating new technology for games and for, gaming devices, we want powerful tech, great, but there's a cap on that. It's only so good it can be.
Yeah.
At some point, maybe not in our lifetime, but at some point you're going to get photorealistic graphics that are just comparable. And then you're like, oh yeah, this has got amazing graphics. Yeah, well, the human eye can only see so much. You might be able to create an image that looks better than you can actually comprehend. At that point, well, there's a hard cap on that. Get to that point and you're done. So I do respect that Nintendo still wants to make games fun. They're still pushing how we play, not just how much this thing, how strong it is. But I'm concerned because, this direction with this new console being so powerful, if it is, it's all speculation, we don't know for certain. We'll know, end of the year, start of next year. But it could be that, Nintendo's taking a more business strategy. They're pushing the technology. But I'm concerned because I want Nintendo to stay the little garden that it is. Maybe I'm just being an old fuddy-duddy. Maybe I'm just being a little bit nostalgic. But I liked that they prioritized making a great game.
Yeah.
It's like when they hired one of the lead directors of the Zelda series. He made his name for himself by working on puzzle boxes. They're these intricate. If you're outside of Japan, you probably won't have seen them. But there are these beautifully designed, intricate puzzle boxes that have like a doll or something on a movement, and it's like you wind it and it makes different moves. Beautiful, but it's so finely crafted that you do one thing and it sets off a whole bunch of other things. And one of the lead designers for the Zelda series made these things at college, at university, and it was his making these things that pushed him over the edge and got him hired by Nintendo. And that's why we see a lot of Zelda games have dungeons that have this design, have this puzzle box design where one piece moves another piece, and you have to have a spatial awareness of the whole dungeon in order to make it the way you want it to be. I don't see that kind of gameplay in other games. I don't see that level of ingenuity. I just see, better looking, if the same style game.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. That's why I love Nintendo.
It's why they're still popular.
This is it. This is what I'm talking about, and so why I always bang on about the culture stuff is that when you get these companies that are not adhering to not its original mission statement, but to the
shareholders,
the audience. No, the actual what the audience want. When you get companies not doing that, it's a big letdown. But when you get companies that hold on to it, you treasure these guys. Which is why I'm rooting for Nintendo. That means that I wonder, the only way we know our words are true is, would you root for Sony if Sony were doing this? If Nintendo were in Sony position with the PlayStation 2, and Sony were trying to wring the cloth to make their console last?
I don't know. I think I would hold Sony's games in high regard, but I have a bias. I'm a Nintendo guy. My first console was a Game Boy. My first home console was an SNES. I am a Nintendo guy. Nintendo that got me into gaming. So I would like to think that I could be academically intelligent. I'm emotionally intelligent enough to choose the one that best suited me.
Yeah.
But honestly, there is something comfortable about seeing that little logo pop up and seeing a Nintendo console. I go back and play the old games. I know they're not good, but they are my games.
This is it. We are Nintendo tribalists.
We try not to be though, but we're cognizant of it. I play a lot of PlayStations. I've owned almost every PlayStation console. I didn't buy the PSP Go because I already had a PSP. So I was like, don't need that. But outside of 5, which I intend to buy at some point in the future, I've owned every single PlayStation console, and I'm a big fan. I like the high-end games I can play on a PlayStation. But I'm never going to stop playing Nintendo games. I really am not, you know. And the fact that I can start playing a lot of PlayStation games on PC now, yeah, like, you know, do I even need a PlayStation anymore?
That's it.
But that
Yeah.
diversification is, I feel, a difficult pill to swallow because Microsoft was selling consoles on its subscription service on the Game Pass. They were bringing in lots and lots of games, getting them on the Game Pass, and people were buying their console, buying the Game Pass, and they're just having a plethora of games to play. But now they are taking games that should have gone to for sale and putting it straight on the Game Pass, and that's cutting off your nose to spite your face. They are so desperate to get people buying their consoles, buying the Game Pass, that they are foregoing a chunk of money that they could get if they just sold the game normally. I think that Microsoft treats their console as a business instead of it being a console business. And it's not like other technology. It has its own peculiarities, its own flavors, its own standards. You have to come into console gaming as a shareholder, as a company, knowing the market, because it ain't like any other market.
Yes.
It's like art. You go in, if you want to buy and sell art, no one else is going to help you with that. Being an economist, it's not going to help you be good in art. But even if you just do the economic side, it's its own thing. It's its own market. It has its own standards and tropes and feelings, and gaming has that. Microsoft has done really, really well. They pumped a lot of money into their consoles. They've tried to make a big show, and they're still around, but they treated it like a business.
Dude, it's a preach or Papa don't preach. I don't know, but like I said, dude, we look at case in point, Stadia.
Oh my God! Oh, what a great idea Stadia was, and they were the ones who could pulled it off. But unfortunately, you can't sell us this with no games.
I love about this. Boy, man, it's the pureness of the art cannot be adulterated. And if you're trying to, it's not something you just can't cheat in. Like you just have to be Puritan about it. And
unfortunately,
right, it's just not gonna work.
They didn't do it. They didn't get it right. Anyway, right, let's watch the end of the video. I say the last part is just him tailing off. To be perfectly honest, we've watched the crux of it. He's made his argument. The rest of it is him just kind of rambling on about what he said before. But I think it's something to think about. I think that, the speculation that comes out before the next generation is palpable. It's accepted at this point. It's just a thing that people do. We're like, hey, the next generation, what are they going to do? But it's interesting with Nintendo because they do big swings. And they sometimes miss, So it's far more engaging. When people announce the new PlayStation, I'm like, all right, then how comparable is it to the last one? Ooh, it's white this time. Yay. But Nintendo always catches my attention, I'm interested to see where they're going to go because they have surprised me. They continue to surprise me. This next generation, I am happy that they announced that it exists. They announced it. There is a Switch 2, but they're not going to announce it until some point later. They're going to announce it some point later in this fiscal year, which is February, March. February and March is the end of the fiscal year. So if they said that, it basically means that if we're lucky, we'll get it before Christmas. Realistically, we'll get it around January.
Yeah.
That way it gives them a little bit more time. But yeah, the speculation has already begun. Hell, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it is because people are nervous. We want Nintendo to come out ahead. They have been the underdog for a while.
Yeah. But that's the thing, isn't it? But I think they're very like Muhammad Ali. They like to kind of downplay it's about the episode of the Art of War coming up in Nintendo. As I hear them
Mm.
all say this, like appear weak when you're strong and strong when you're weak. They know they know that they may have something in the bag, but they don't mind people thinking that they're weak. That
Mm.
it could even garner sympathy, and then when they surprise people, it gets all this fanfare and just
True,
drives
true.
them in.
But I think Nintendo are in a bit of a precarious situation. The Switch 2 has to be a success because they have, in the last decade or so, they've begun to diversify their portfolio. They begin to invest in other aspects.
Like
Universal
digital
Studios has a Nintendo
and of
World
park.
now. They
Yes,
have movies. They're moving into kind of movies and AR experiences.
and
But
real estate.
all of it is tied to their own IPs.
Yes.
And people like those IPs because of the games they play. If the Switch 2 is not a success, people might be discouraged from other avenues of their
I,
company.
I I feel the same way. We felt that way when I think you probably felt the same way like me. Like when the Switch 2 was on the way out and the Switch was coming, we didn't know what the Switch would be. And we were thinking, gosh, I really hope everything goes out well. It's funny. I felt I love Japan, so I guess I'm a bit biased, but I felt a similar way with the Olympics actually. I was like,
Yeah.
especially after, when you saying because when Usain Bolt was like dominating the whole thing, I was like, I wish he'd come to Japan, but hey, his leg gave out, poor thing. But still, I was like, at least I mean, I was looking forward to Japan having a blast at the Olympics and all that, and then you know what happened, and it all went to. I was really frustrated,
Oh,
but
for those of you who are watching, do you want to just clarify what happened?
all right, yes, there was a big shutdown, and you know the the, I call it the mask madness, not March Madness, but mask madness happened. Yes, and then everybody was told to sit down and cancel your plane tickets, and
Yeah.
there you have it. It was, and lo and behold, I'm here in Japan for so many years, and that means that I probably wouldn't want to stay anyway. But yeah, it just made the turned the Olympics into a 2020 event to 2021 in an isolated stadium event, which is weird. But hey,
Yeah.
we did our best, man. But dang, so similarly, when the Switch was coming out, people were thinking a lot is riding on this, a lot is riding on this, and the Switch 2 is in a similar situation. So I hope nothing
Yeah.
stupid comes and interferes. I just hope for the best.
I think that they've learnt their lesson. The Switch was promoted and advertised exceptionally well. It established what it was, how it works. The Wii was a gangbuster. It was so much more successful than it should have been. As a console, it was great, but it captured the casual market. You got people who never play games playing the Wii. Grannies were playing Wii. Everyone was playing the Wii, and they kind of lent into that. But the casuals left. They came, they had their fun, and then they went on to the next thing that was popular. And all that was left were the gamers. And what the Wii U was not too gamer friendly.
Yeah.
Great idea, but it was like the Virtual Boy. It was a great
Yes.
idea, but the tech wasn't there. The controller kept disconnecting. It couldn't go too far. The battery died after a few hours. That's not how I play. I sit down on the sofa with some snacks and some drinks and I grind. But if I had to stop every 2 hours to charge the damn thing up, well, that's not fun for me.
Yeah.
Good idea, but poor technical implementation. And then, because they were on a downward spiral, they just didn't release a lot for it. There was some amazing games for it, but there weren't many. They really struggled to fill the titles up. You can look at the entire list and recognize most of them.
Mm.
Look at the entire list of games and like, oh yeah, I know like most of these. But whereas
Yes.
if you look at other companies, other consoles, there'll be a whole mess of games that just flew under the radar because there were so many released.
Something again. I just love to tie it back to culture and family. Do you remember Dizzy Rascal's album Tongue in Cheek?
Yeah, I remember Dizzy Rascal. Yeah.
You made a song called Holiday. You could get away on holiday, baby, something like that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, it rings a bell.
yeah, and so he went through this phase, a bit like when that character Kanye West put out his album called 808s and Heartbreak. Now, the reason I bring this up is to say something was happening in technology at the time. When auto tune was coming in the music scene, people were kind of coming into music, having computers sing for them and so on, and it was a bit
Mm,
of a let's bring in the casual person into what was once a specialized field thing happening all over the place. Then after that, people wanted to bring raw talent back in some ways, but you couldn't do it exactly the way it was before because the scene had changed, technology has changed.
Yeah.
So
So
um,
many more people just
yeah,
changes the environment.
right. So that man Dizzy Rascal, I mean, as of late, I've been listening to his songs he's done since then, and it's a lot more hardcore, true rap, and there's a lot more skill and dexterity and
Well,
clever.
he's a talented rapper. He's a great guy. He's
Yeah.
a great performer.
So now when people heard the tongue in cheek album, well the songs from that or that song, some people may think I'm bonkers, nothing crazy about me. That was to get more casual people into it, a bit like what the We did. But
Mm.
when you do that, you take a gamble because you risk coming across as you're here for the casual people only, and you've switched your
Mm.
brand altogether. But you don't want to lose the hardcore people, so you're gonna have to spend a bit of time building back that hardcore audience, which is what the Switch did. So,
Well,
after the
that's
Wii.
it's after the Wii U. The Wii U was supposed to be riding the high of the popularity, and then the people were gone. The people had moved on, and it just didn't work out as well as it did. Yeah, it's not a bad thing to appeal to a larger audience. Release
Mm,
a track or two for the mainstream, for radio edits.
mm.
That's fine. But
Yeah,
don't forget the people who put you there. Don't
yeah,
forget the people who made you popular. And
exactly.
that I felt that's why the Switch felt like a return to form. They were tapping into not just good games, but its technological roots, but also it was its handheld market, which is like I mentioned before, which was a massive market which helped bolster the company during the dark times.
Mm,
During the dark times of the Wii U, the handheld sales were still going pretty strong. 3DSs were selling well. They were very, very popular. Game Boy Advance, the Nintendo DS, and then the 3DS, all of these good sellers, strong sellers,
mm,
just cheaper because they're handheld. Well, tie in the handheld market and the home console market,
boom.
boom, one market, and they dominated.
That's it. Sorry, this last bit of the video. Okay, I keep talking. Sorry, it's my fault. Sorry, people. I just love talking Game of Dan. It's been a long time. We missed a week. I had all this saved up.
Yeah, it's been a while, so we're
Yeah.
catching up. Yep. Let's. Whoop. Okay, sharing screen, sound. Boom.
Nice,
Right.
nice infused water. Oh, sorry, that's your line.
Oh no, damn it. Okay, wrong one. There we go. Sharing screen.
Got it.
3, 2, 1.
That there was a much higher chance of us playing these beautiful first-party Nintendo games, but actually at a decently high resolution and frame rate, maybe? Is that wishful thinking? I don't know. But like the graphics on the Switch 2, they don't need to be that much better than the Switch. They really don't need to be that much better. Just run better. Look a little better and then just high resolution, high frame rate. There you go. So if it's true, the Switch 2 is this powerful, then that would be fantastic. Oh yeah, and then finally it seems people are claiming that the next system will be released in May of 2025 and revealed later this year, like in the fall. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I guess if they were going to release it on the same like timeline as the original Switch, so like in March, kind of the change over the fiscal year, then I would say definitely they would have to maybe reveal it by like the end of this year, at least like a tease. But if they were going to release it in May, I think they could safely reveal the thing in like January and not have that conflict with the holiday season. So yeah, I don't know. Would they need to reveal it this year if they weren't going to release it till May? I'm not sure. I don't want to wait a year. Come on. Give it to us. I don't wait a year. Come on. Just come on. Do you have any idea how hard it is to be a Nintendo YouTuber right now? In this void of news before the release of a new console? It's terrible.
Guys, hilarious.
A year of this.
Yeah, he makes me laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I said before. I think that they're going to announce it around Christmas. They're not going to try and release it before Christmas because they'll need to release it a shade before Christmas to get it into stores because the initial load will be sold out. It's like the PlayStation 5. They started selling it and boom, they're gone. And having the bitter taste of you not getting one for Christmas
Mm.
That's frustrating. So release it after. It's going to be start of the new fiscal year. They're going to announce it around Christmas, just as a kind of a middle finger to PlayStation and Xbox, and say, forget them. Next year, boom, give it a few months. The new fiscal year clicks in. Boom, the new console comes out, and their finances are going to look fantastic.
This is it, man. This is war. I love this is a form of console, even though it's like you say, it's not console in the original sense of the word, but it's still an industry war, if you will.
Well, the term has changed so much, you know. What do you call a console? I've got handhelds. I've got a PS Vita, as I mentioned. I also still have my 3DS. I've been playing Pokemon Heart Gold in Japanese on that to kind of practice my Japanese. But I also have a Steam Deck. And would you class that as it's a handheld device? But do you class it as a console? You know, I say no. I say it's a handheld PC. It's a PC because I can go into the settings and I can start twiddling with things. But even now, if I wire up, a PS4, PS5, I'm going to the settings and start twiddling with things. So that line is blurry.
I see your point. That's a very good point indeed. That's a discussion for next time.
Yes.
By the way, I probably use 8 of your morning. I know you've got a busy day ahead. My apologies.
That's good. I like to have these conversations. It's always fun, and it's nice to be out you with all you happy, clappy people.
Yeah, people. Oh my gosh, thanks. We've been slowly increasing. We should be having a bit of a boom too. Not necessarily Nintendo size. Who knows? Maybe. But yeah, things are starting to pick up. I've been out of it quite a bit, but thanks for your patience, people, because yeah, life happens. So
Yeah, I would say life happens. We're going to produce as much as we can, as when we can. We're both here because we love doing this. We're here of our own volition. There's no
yeah.
gun to my head.
Funny, and if anyone out there, that's funny. Yes, it's seriously not the case. But anyone, but anyone out there, guys, if you know Guru Larry, I just want to take this chance to say, get well soon. If if you're not, I just want to see more videos from you, mate. Where has he gone? I don't know. I just wanted to say that.
Life happens, buddy. Life happens.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be a relatively somber year for games. I think we've got some good titles coming out. We've had some nice things, but I don't think it's going to be too turbulent because it's all ramping up. Next year is going to be a big one. There's some big titles coming out. There's some big companies making big swings. There's some good stuff coming out. I mentioned earlier, Stellar Blade. I really want to pick up a PlayStation 5 now that Final Fantasy 16 is available. Now that Final Fantasy 7 Remake 2 is available. But there's also some other games that I've been waiting for to pop, and so I want to pick up a console to play those. But it seems like a turbulent time in gaming.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm here for it, and on the other side, see you on the other side, dude.
I know. Right, for all you people, thank you.
Thank you
Peace.
so much. Peace. Catch you again, Dan.
Catch you soon. Bye.